Vampires from England. A real vampire couple from England. So, y'all already know 'tis the season, spooky season. We now in October and we're in full effect. So with that being said, what's smoking on my dragons, divine righteous, almighty greats overachieving, never slacking. And we're about to meet a vampire couple from England. With that being said, let's hop right into it. Here we go.
Curiously, there are self-described vampires still living in the world today, and they're not rampaging through the Carpathian Mountains in Eastern Europe. They live in Slough, to the west of London, and their names, Arrow Draven and Leah Benninghoff.
There's vampires everywhere. Vampires can be doctors, nurses, solicitors.
Let's stop it right there. There's vampires everywhere, he said. He said there's vampires, doctors, nurses. Okay, all right. Just sit on that for a second. Sit on that for a second.
There's vampires everywhere. Vampires can be doctors, nurses, solicitors, bank managers, mechanics, someone working in the local supermarket, your friends, your family. We could be anyone.
When I first saw that he was a vampire, it's very interesting. I was like, okay, didn't know there was actually proper real vampires out there. I've always hoped there was. And to finally meet one was actually very interesting, to finally get to know what it really is and everything, what the lifestyle's like and everything like that.
There is that whole erotic sense of vampirism and drinking each other's blood, that kind of intimate connection to it, but really there's no benefit from it. It basically goes through your body and then it's expelled. There's no actual health benefit to it, and actually it could be dangerous if you're taking high levels of blood into your system because you could overdose on iron. But in terms of blood transfusions, that's different. I mean, obviously that's a necessary medical procedure. There is a benefit to that, but that's a completely separate issue than drinking blood.
Okay, so when you look at right now on TikTok, the vampires are actually trending. And there's a lot of people in New Orleans who talk about having different encounters with what they think may have been a vampire. And there was this one lady who talked about vampires, one vampire being in like, I think she picked her up in an Uber, right? And it was a very, very long, very interesting story. But long story short, she said the lady told her that there's many different types of vampires. So if we are to dive into this and really look at it and break it down, then we can't really break it down from just the perspective of, well, vampires don't really do this. Because that would almost be like saying humans don't really do this. Think about it. Humans, say right now there was a parallel universe where there's all type of beings and creatures that we don't think exist, and say they don't believe humans exist and everything's kind of the other way around. Now, let's say the ones that come across humans, right? And they're like, and they seen humans playing basketball, right? A basketball family of humans. Well, they're going to be like, well, humans don't really do this. They play basketball and it. But there's so much different types of humans. You get what I'm saying? There's ones that play football. There's ones that are on a piano. There's Beethovens. There's this and that. So there's so much different types that, let's say if vampires were a real thing, like really, there would be many different types, I'm sure. So I think people would get confused in trying to just box things. Like there would be types that even this couple may never have heard of. You get what I'm saying? Like energy vampire, this, that, like this. The list would go on, I would think.
Leah says that she can remember the exact moment that Arrow turned her into a vampire, and she drank human blood for the first time.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. So okay.
He turned me into a vampire. It had to be at night at 3 a.m. in the morning, the witching hour. And Really, it all consisted of he drank my blood, and then I drank his blood. Like a sort of a cycle.
I had to block out certain parts just because, just YouTube. I like to be very careful when we get to talking about certain things and drinking. Man, I gotta be careful on YouTube with certain things. Just
Cool feed.
The vampire culture has people we class as donors, who are people who willingly allow us to feed from them. So, like I say, there are some, I'm sure, out there who would try and take it by force, but most of us believe in, respecting other people's wishes, other people's bodies. We don't do anything to harm.
well, thank you to the person speaking, the vampire speaking. Um, Definitely wouldn't want anybody harmed or hurt out there in England, or anywhere else in the world. I appreciate you respecting humans, and I'm not being sarcastic. I'm really not, because I'm personally me. I don't doubt anything, and I would think at this point, it's it's funny because I heard Candace Owens say, she said, if you're not a conspiracy theorist at this point, then you're just an idiot, right? It was funny, something she said along those lines. But I'm someone that, like, I don't doubt anything. So respect to those that, if there's some type of some otherworldly things out here. Respect if you don't forcefully hurt humans.
Others, or, even for whether it's for our own benefit or anything else.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, what do you guys think about that? And for those out there, like, what legends, myths, like, what have you heard? What have you heard? Out there in England. What I would like to know in the comments. Listen, it's spooky season. I'm not running from. I'm not. First off, I'm a dragon. I don't run from the smoke. So it's spooky season. I want to hear. I want to hear some real stories. I want to hear what myths. I want to hear it all. The folklore. I want to hear it in the comments. Do not beat around the bush with me, please and thank you. But not in all honesty, like I've heard different things as far as, like, other people who claim to be vampires, and they, I guess, just drink blood. But there's others that I've heard that it's like energy vampires, and just different types. So yeah, just yeah, yeah, very interesting, very interesting. Very interesting. I'm sure there's a lot of things roaming around here that that we just don't know about, that our ancestors um, knew about and was probably common knowledge. But nowadays, most people's common knowledge is really just a computer or a cell phone. You know, but we still have access to so much. Sometimes it's cool to look into some odd things, right? Some otherworldly things. And maybe we'll realize it's not so otherworldly as we think. You know, maybe the world we live in, or we think we live in, isn't the world that we think we live in. It's a big world. But with that being said, I'm looking forward to the comments on this one. I'm looking forward to the comments. I'm not gonna lie. I want to hear what people got to say about this, because um, yeah, I really just want to hear what y'all have heard over there in England. Like, I want to hear, because I've heard, like I said, I've heard some things. Being from New York, you're gonna hear some this. So I'm curious to know what y'all hearing over there in England, and what y'all heard or experienced over there in England. With that being said, I'll be back with more soon. Welcome to spooky season.